Ukrainian brigades reorganized. They're immediately turning the tide and defeating the Russians in the field, showing the difference one good commander can make in Dnipropetrovsk direction. In turn, Russians have abandoned all hope of a successful attack and are forced to move around. But the Ukrainian soldiers had one last trick up their sleeve. RFU News media outlet reports. The turning point came with the reform in Ukrainian 141st Brigade, as after a period of poor performance and degraded command practices, the brigade was reshaped under Shevchuk, who removed Soviet-style military thinking and rebuilt unit culture around modern combined arms practices. The change is evident in tighter, small unit coordination, clearer fire control procedures, and a restored emphasis on discipline and logistics. The cultural shift has directly translated into faster decision cycles on all levels by giving non-commissioned officers increased agency, more reliable liaison with artillery and drones, and an ability to conduct sustained clearing operations rather than a failing defense. RFU News says, as a result, the 141st has expanded its counter-offensive effort northward, mounting systematic clearing and interdiction missions that extend into Novoselivka and surrounding grey zones. First, reconnaissance drones swept the target area and picked out a small Russian patrol moving along the tree line. Their positions and routes immediately passed to forward observers. Using these coordinates, Bodana self-propelled guns targeted these locations and fired precise tube artillery rounds that bracketed and suppressed the enemy positions. As the gunners finished, Ukrainian infantry moved in to clear all the Russian soldiers that remained with calm, purpose, and high levels of aggression. They moved through the houses, cleared rooms and streets, and secured prisoners, turning the sequence from detection to destruction to clearance in a single well-timed operation. RFU News reports. Due to the sudden intensity and effectiveness of the Ukrainian counterattacks, Russians' commanders decided to shift their offensive focus away from the 141st. To maintain momentum, small recon groups were sent to probe Ukrainian defenses, of which only the group moving to Oleksiivka survived long enough to make contact. However, as the recon group was small and without staying power, they were quickly killed by Ukrainians who had holed up inside the settlement. Nonetheless, Russian commanders decided that shifting their focus to Oleksiivka would still be better than engaging the 141st directly, as it would completely stall their advance. Moving multiple launch rocket systems into position, they started hammering Oleksiivka in preparation for further assaults. However, the goal of the Ukrainian counterattacks had succeeded, as breaking the Russian momentum toward Velikomaikhailivka had bought time for Ukrainian drone units to establish persistent overwatch and deeper interdiction coverage. Footage from Novoselivka shows FPV teams providing direct fire support for advancing Ukrainian squads, marking moving targets, and striking short-range infantry groups as they try to push in. Later clips show the same FPV crews intercepting and striking Russian attempts to bypass the brigade, including strikes on small groups that tried to use Oleksiivka and adjacent tracks, repeatedly stopping Russian bypass attempts before Ukrainian artillery or infantry even had to intervene. RFU News says, going around the 141st lengthens Russian supply routes and forces convoys onto main roads, and with the mud season beginning, those longer, exposed roads will be the only practical routes they can take. These open and exposed roads will be prime targets for the new set in Ukrainian drone operators to target, turning them into roads of death. Even as Russian infantry attempts to move through tree lines, which traditionally have less mud due to the roots holding the ground together better, these will be the only paths forward, and in turn will be heavily shelled and targeted by Ukrainian drone and artillery units as well. RFU News says, the 141st's reorganization unit, Shevchuk, has produced a tactical shock that already shows operational consequences as Russian units are avoiding direct engagement with them.
The UN Development Agency says the amount of rubble in Gaza would stack 12 meters high in all of New York's Central Park or be enough to build 13 giant pyramids in Giza in Egypt. According to Associated Press, Jaco Cilliers, special representative of UNDP administrator for a program to help Palestinians, says the latest joint estimate from the UN, the European Union and the World Bank is that $70 billion will be required to rebuild Gaza. That figure was tallied in September, and up from $53 billion estimated in February. The estimated damage and rubble throughout the whole of Gaza is in the region of 55 million tons, he said. Another way to put it, apart from the example from Central Park that I mentioned, is also equal to 13 pyramids in Giza. That is the amount and size of the challenge, Cilliers told a UN press briefing in Geneva by video from Jerusalem. He said $20 billion would be needed in the next 3 years, and the rest would be needed over a longer period, possibly decades. Cilliers pointed to good indications from potential donors such as those in the Arab world, Europe and the United States, without specifying.
With us to brief the journalists here in Geneva, as I said, you are the UNDP.
For instance, if you look at the debris challenges and what needs to be done, it is comparable to building a 12-meter wall around Central Park. And if you fill that with debris, then that is the amount of debris that needs to be moved in Gaza. As UNDP, we've already removed about 81,000 tons. That is about 3,100 truckloads. The majority of the debris removal is at the moment to provide access to humanitarian actors so that they can provide the much needed aid and support to the people in Gaza, but we also help with hospitals and other social services that needs to be cleared of debris. We have reused about 13,200 tons of debris. We use crushing machines so that the debris can be reused for anything from road pavements, but also to providing flooring for some of the shelters being built in Gaza. Just to give you an estimate of the challenges that the reconstruction efforts will cost, the RDNA, which was jointly done by the UN, the European Union and the World Bank, estimate that about $70 billion will be required for the reconstruction of Gaza. That means that also in the next 3 years, about $20 billion will be required. So the estimated damage and rubble throughout the whole of Gaza is in the region of 55 million tons. Another way to put it, apart from the example from Central Park that I mentioned, is also equal to 13 pyramids in Giza. That is the amount and size of the challenge that needs to be filled. Obviously, a big part of that is now in Gaza City. There has been incredible destruction and and many houses have been destroyed. There is about 425 housing units that have been either fully destroyed or damaged. Unfortunately, this is a reality and a very sad situation of the work that we're doing also in rubble removal. We have actually come across such incidents already, where 3 bodies were found in the process of removing some of the rubble. We hope that the ceasefire would also provide the opportunity to accelerate also access for other equipment, as you mentioned, heavy equipment like bulldozers and other trucks are needed, and we hope that the access can also be provided for that as soon as possible.